n8n just came out with data tables. So this is a native version of Airtable or Google Sheets, and it's something that people have been requesting of n8n for a long time. Now, the use case of something like this is when you have more complex workflows or multiple workflows within n8n, you often will be needing to pass information either between workflows or between stages in your workflow. In the past, you would have to save this to Airtable or Google Sheets as your database or even Superbase or something like that. But now they've released a very simple new way that you can just do it all natively within n8n. Benefits of this is obviously ease of use. You don't have to use a separate service that you have to set up and manage. And then two is it's slightly faster because you don't have to make that round trip to the third-party service. But to be honest, for most n8n workflows that I've seen, speed is not really that much of an issue. It's really that ease of use and not needing to manage multiple services. So you can see here in the n8n home screen, there is a data tables beta tab. So if you're not seeing this, just make sure that you are on the latest version. So to do that, just go to your admin panel. So in your admin panel, you can see what version you are on. You will need at least 1.113. If you don't have that, go into settings here. You can switch to the 1.113 at the minimum, right? And then just save that and restart your instance. So assuming you've got that, you should be able to see the n8n data table tab. So if I come into here and create a new one, create data table, I'll say test2. You can see that it kind of looks like Airtable. So when I create a new column, you give it a name. So let's say name, and then you have a couple of different types. You can see here is like quite bare bones. We have string, number, Boolean, and datetime. So Boolean, for those who are less code savvy, is if it's true or false, and then datetime is as it's just. So compared to something like Airtable or even Notion, there's a lot less types here, but I'm sure n8n will continue to build this out over time. So once you've done that, you have your columns, and if you can add new data as well. So let's say dumpling AI with dates and everything else. If you switch this to, you can sort of add as many columns as you want. So once you've created a data table, you can come back and create a workflow. And from here, you can sort of do basically everything you can do with something like Google Sheets or Airtable. So if I just come to data table, you can see here, you can delete rows, you can retrieve rows, you can update rows. So you can CRUD on the data within a data table, but you can see here that you can't actually do a couple of things, right? So you can't create data tables within a workflow. You can't delete data tables within a workflow. You can't update sort of the metadata around the data table. Like you can't rename a data table within a workflow. I'm not sure if n8n is going to add this in the future, but keep that in mind when you're designing a solution. Now, how do we actually use this, right? So let's do something super simple first. So let's say I just want to write into a data table. So I'll just type in data table again, and we will just insert a row, right? So from my data table, I only have two, so I'm just going to choose the one I just made, and I'm going to put in dumpling AI, right? So if I execute this step, it should add a new row to the data table, right? Super basic. Now you're looking at this and like, this doesn't do anything. So this is where we sort of switch it over into something more practical, right? So let's say we switch this now to, let's say we're monitoring Google search rankings as an example. So here we want to do a request to something like dumpling AI to get search results. So I'm going to go quickly to docs, dumpling AI docs, and we'll get the Google search endpoint. Yep, so we got the Google search endpoint here. You can see we've got all this stuff. So I'm just going to copy that over, change it to, it's a post method, remove that, post authentication. See if it's already in here. Where is it? Okay, there we go. And then with the body, let's just copy it over using JSON. Right, using JSON, copy this over. Don't need most of this stuff. We're going to keep it super simple. We're just going to have the query, which will be, let's say, dentists in New York. So I'm going to execute that step. That's searching. You can see we've got Google search results for dentists in New York. So let's say we're sort of iterating through lots of different queries here, right? As an example, and we want to store the results somewhere. So previously you would store it in something like Google Sheets or Airtable. Now you can store it in your new data table, right? So you can do the exact same thing I had before, where you insert that data into your data table, right? And here, maybe I'll just keep it simple. I'll just insert the first result. So the first Google result. If you wanted to do all of them, you would need to have the loop logic before the insert row, but nothing there is really new here, right? The other thing here is like, once we do that, right, let's say for each of the businesses that we find, maybe we shouldn't be using Google search, we're using search places, Google places, that'd probably be better. But let's say we did search places and we have a list of businesses. And for each of the businesses, I want to scrape their individual websites. So I would have saved all of those businesses into a data table. And then I could create a separate workflow where I read from a data table. And for each of the rows, I then create a new module where it scrapes each website, right? So it's basically, like I said in the beginning, it's just a replacement for Airtable or Google Sheets. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. If you want to sort of figure out how to do that sort of stuff, I cover a lot of it in my previous videos. But yeah, I'm super excited to see where n8n takes this. I think a lot of other YouTubers will sort of paint it as something groundbreaking or that sort of stuff. It is very cool in n8n, but it doesn't really unlock too many new use cases because you could already do this with Google Sheets or Airtable. It's just now you don't need that separate tool. Now, if you come up with any super cool ideas, I'd love to hear it. Put it in the comments below. I'd like to see what everyone is building in n8n.